morning, Jasgar Sandhu from Boz News. We just heard today that India is targeting, using the terminology I'll share, the South Asian diaspora. To be more specific, is the main target of transnational repression or foreign interference and organized crime, including what we just heard, extortions, actually the Sikh Canadian community?
So yes, I mean, it is targeting the South Asian community, but what we've seen is there's specific targeting of pro-Khalistan elements in Canada, or members of the pro-Khalistan movement.
And just for the follow-up, but we're talking about extortions, organized crime being used. We've, within the community, have seen that folks have been targeted in these incidents are not just people that are linked to the Khalistan movement or the Sikh self-determination movement. Are you able to share that the transnational repression occurring right now is going beyond just Sikhs connected to the Khalistan movement in some shape or form?
So just in order to preserve the integrity of the investigations that are being conducted by our police of jurisdiction partners, I won't be providing any further details in regards to the specificity of those investigations. But what we've seen is from an RCMP perspective, is the use of organized crime elements. And I will say and it's been publicly attributed and claimed by one organized crime group in particular, which is the Bishnoi group. So that's what we're seeing here in Canada. And we believe that that group is connected to agents of the government of India.
What repercussions do you expect?
Well, first of all, let's highlight that none of us want to be in this situation. This is not a choice that Canada made to create a chill in Canada-India relations. India is an important democracy, is a country with which we have deep historical people-to-people business ties, at a time where the instability around geopolitics mean democracies have to stick together. That is why when we started to understand through intelligence agencies that India was possibly, if not probably, behind Nijjar's killing, the killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil last summer, our first choice, our first actions were to reach out, yes, to our Five Eyes partners, but also to the government of India, to say, we know this has happened. Work with us to fix this. We don't want to be having this fight, but obviously the killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil is not something that we can ignore as a country. So every step of the way, we have apprised India of what we know. I've spoken directly with Prime Minister Modi. We have engaged with intelligence counterparts. And unfortunately, every step of the way, both after I made the statement in the House of Commons last September and till now, the response of the Indian government has been to deny, to obfuscate, to attack me personally and the integrity of the Government of Canada and its officials and its police agencies. And we have simply said, we're going to allow our agencies to do the work, particularly to move from intelligence collection from agencies to police investigations that result in arrests, trials, and consequences within a rigorous and robust and independent judicial system. That has been our approach every step of the way. And indeed, over this past week, when the RCMP reached out to its law enforcement counterparts in India, there was a path where we could have worked together to ensure accountability and changes and steps that would have resulted in keeping Canadians safe, because that is our top priority. India the Indian government, rejected those advances, rejected our attempts to find some way through this. And that brought us to this point of having to disrupt the chain of operations that go from Indian diplomats here in Canada to criminal organizations to direct violent impacts on Canadians right across this country.
There's a violent extremist threat in Canada that Canada and India have been working on over the years. However, these threats are impacting Canada and India's ability to collaborate. Earlier this week, RCMP Deputy Commissioner of Federal Policing made attempts to meet with the Indian law enforcement counterparts to discuss violent extremists occurring in Canada and India and present evidence pertaining to agents of the Government of India's involvement in serious criminal activity here in Canada. Unfortunately, these attempts were unsuccessful. Therefore, Deputy Commissioner met with officials of the Government of India alongside with the National Security Intelligence Advisor and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs over the weekend. Through our National Task Force and other investigative efforts, the RCMP has obtained evidence that demonstrates 4 very serious issues. 1, violent extremists impacting both countries. 2, links tying agents of the Government of India to homicides and violent acts. 3, the use of organized crime to create perception of unsafe environment targeting the South Asian community in Canada. And the 4th, interference in democratic processes. Investigations have revealed that Indian diplomats and consular officials based in Canada leveraged their official position to engage in clandestine activities, such as collecting information for the Government of India, either directly or through their agents, and other individuals who acted voluntarily or through coercion. Evidence also shows that a wide variety of entities in Canada and abroad have been used by agents of the Government of India to collect information. Some of these individuals and businesses were coerced and threatened into working with the Government of India. The information collected by the Government of India is then used to target members of the South Asian community. This evidence was presented directly to the Government of India officials, urging their cooperation in stemming the violence and requesting our law enforcement agencies work together to address this issue. The RCMP is hoping to address these threats through our relationship with the Government of India and the National Investigation Agency, with the end goal of strengthening the safety and security of the Canadian public and South Asian community. The safety and security of our citizens, regardless of their background or belief, remains a top priority for the RCMP, and we will not tolerate any form of intimidation, harassment, or harmful targeting of communities of individuals in Canada. We are seeking the public's assistance in reporting incidents of foreign interference by the Government of India. Anyone who feels threatened online or in person should report the incidents to local police. If someone is in immediate danger, please call 911. Individuals can also report to the RCMP National Security Information Network by calling 1-800-420-5805. We recognize the concern and fear people might be feeling when seeing this news, and we recognize that South Asians are victims of these activities we're investigating. We want to assure all Canadians that their safety and security is at the forefront of everything we do, and we urge the public and South Asian community to remain calm and give law enforcement and Canadian officials time to continue discussions. While the RCMP does not generally comment on investigative matters to preserve operation integrity, we will keep the public updated as things developed.
Most recently, we've attempted to engage with our law enforcement partners to discuss that issue, but also to present the concerning evidence that we've uncovered through our investigations, which we've talked about today, but those attempts were unsuccessful. The Commissioner mentioned the Deputy Commissioner of Federal Policing's meeting over the weekend with Government of India officials. The outcome of that meeting was not what we had hoped. So, coupled with the significant threat to public safety, why we're here today as a result of those unsuccessful attempts. We are open and would like to continue to work with our law enforcement partners in India, and we urge them to take us up on our offer.
We've been working on this for quite some time, and the meeting that took place October 12th we did not meet the objectives that we wanted to make sure that we could collaborate and work together and ensure a safer Canada for our citizens. And we felt it was important, based on our investigations, what we're seeing, and the lack of collaboration, is to come out and make sure that we inform the Canadian public of what we're seeing and asking for assistance if they see anything or feel anything. So since September 2023, 12, 13?
At least a dozen.
At least a dozen. So when you factor that in, that we're in October 24, that's quite a significant number of 13 people for duty to warn.
And some of them some of those receive multiple threats. So in totality, it's probably higher than 12 or 13. And we've had some still very recently in the last few weeks. Therefore, the harm and the threats have continued.
And what is the nature of these threats, and where are these individuals located in Canada? How many provinces and territories are we talking about?
We've seen threats across Canada. When there is a credible imminent threat to an individual's life, or there's a threat of serious bodily harm, it is the police's duty to inform those individuals. For privacy reasons and for the security of these individuals, I won't provide further details at this time.
The question with expulsion, that would be best responded by our Government Affairs Canada. We're looking after that aspect. We are looking purely from a law enforcement perspective. There has been some conversations in the past about lifting the immunity for these individuals so that we can interview them, and we were not successful in doing so. I'm not aware where they're at with the process. What I can say is that our Deputy Commissioner of Federal Policing, who oversees national security, did try to get a hold of his counterparts to no success. And we felt that the second best option is to join our National Security Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister, as well as Deputy Minister of Government Affairs, at a meeting with government officials from India, in which our Deputy Commissioner plainly laid out the evidence that we had on some of the cases forward, and seeking the assistance and trying to improve and work on a collaboration with them. And again, that did not result in the outcomes that were expected, and this is why we're here today.
What I can tell you is that we've seen a number of criminal organizations that have been involved in the various criminal activity. I mentioned previously the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, which is a gang that's involved in extortions and narcotics originating from India. That group has claimed responsibility for certain activity that was in the public, but there's also other groups which I will refrain from naming at this time.
Concerning from my part, from what I've seen from last couple of years, I think that the RCMP, along with its security partners such as CSIS and CSE and CBSA and everyone you can think of, GAC. We must ensure that we continue to work together and make sure that the flow of information is shared with the people who need the information. And we can't, I'm not quite sure of all the diplomatic rules as to can you prevent someone from coming into the country if you have something on the individual. That would be better asked to the Government Affairs of Canada of if there is a vetting process when someone comes to Canada as an ambassador or high commissioner. I'm completely unaware of the process for that. Thank you.
If I may add, it is extremely concerning. I mean, Indian diplomats and consular officials are here to protect the interests of their nationals that are based in Canada and their country's national interests as well, and not to be part of criminal activity or intimidation or coercion of these individuals. So we take that very seriously. That is, without a doubt, a contravention of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, but also it goes against Canada's values as a society.